you know, but sometimes they go a little interesting on us. I think we're going to wait just a moment or two as people's time clocks. You know, mine says 9 o'clock, but other people's might say 8:57 or 8:58. So we're going to wait just a few more folks as people come on board. And so one thing I have to announce is that our previously scheduled presenter, Matthew Roach, who works for us here at Library Development, came down with bronchitis. And fortunately, Jennifer Fenton, my co-coordinator of this series, is a subject specialist who has a great deal of knowledge in this area, and so she took time out of her busy, you know, out of her holiday to put together a program for you because she knows quite a bit about this. And so we have to say thank you for her to be going forward with this when Matt was just totally stricken with bronchitis. So we say kudos to her for maintaining this program so we didn't miss it. Okay, more people continue to join us. This is, as I mentioned today, my name is Carolyn Peterson, and I work for Library Development here at the Washington State Library. And the two of us, Jennifer Fenton, who's going to be your presenter today, also do that. If you have any technical issues, there is Joe's both phone number and email. Jeremy is out today because his daycare arrangements fell through. So Jeremy won't be able to help you, but do take a moment to jot down Joe's email. In fact, I think I'll put it in chat here, his phone number. That's Joe's phone number. And there's Joe's email in case you need to have any help. So we will, I can see Leah's just joined us and others. So we're just going to be a moment away from beginning. I see Jill has joined us. A few more. People seem to like to come just a few minutes after the hour as they get off desks or get logged in. So we'll wait just a couple more minutes before we do that. So welcome, everyone, and we're glad, like I say, that you were able to find the time to devote to this very intense topic. I'll just say something about next month's topic. Next month's topic is the result of a pilot project we ran here at the Washington State Library. We decided to award grant project participants. We gave them e-device readers, and we said we had two parts to the project. One part was how do you train staff to train both the public and each other on how do you access and use e-reader devices. And then the other half of the group decided that they wanted to experiment with circulating e-reader devices. So their experiences are going to be the focus of next week. Let's try in October's first Tuesday. So we will do that. Okay, well, Jennifer, I think it is, by my clock, 9:05, so I think that we are, this is a program that is brought to you by the Washington State Library. So with that, I will turn the presentation over to Jennifer Fenton. And Jennifer, do you want to talk about this?
Thank you, Carolyn. I'm Jennifer Fenton from the Washington State Library. I'm the Continuing Education Training Coordinator, and in a former life, I was a youth services librarian and administrator for a large library system. So I'm pleased to be able to step in and hopefully lead this session today. The first thing we'd like to do is find out who's here. So if you could please go ahead and type in chat your library affiliation and what kind of library you work in. So the library's name and city, state would be very helpful. This will help us to get an idea of who all is here and also where we're all coming from. So go ahead and take a minute to do that. And I see that we have people from Iowa and Kentucky, and then we have local people from Bellingham and Seattle and Timberland and King County Libraries, Whatcom County. So quite a diverse group today. And Virginia, wow. And let's see, where else are people joining us from? New Mexico.
Stevens County.
And Nebraska.
We're glad. Yeah, and I did see that is really nice. If 2 people are on the session with you, letting us know is wonderful. So we do appreciate that. You know, we all have to justify our funding, so numbers count, so thank you. Okay, I see Kayla is still typing, but I think that we are, oh, I see someone from Iowa. That's good.
Thank you. Well, welcome, everyone. Go ahead and continue to type in where you're from if you haven't already. And welcome to our Teen Book Club presentation. And thank you for joining us the day after holiday. I know that it's often hard enough to come back on a Monday, let alone a Tuesday after holiday. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. There is a hand-raising tool and a voting yes/no button. They are on the participants list. And so let's do a quick poll and see who here is either a teacher librarian or a teen or youth services librarian. There's a green check mark. So how many are actually specialized in teen or youth services?
Which one do you, so it's which one is it the check if you're a teen service? And
it's check if you're a teen or a youth services person, school, teacher, librarian. So that looks like a lot of people are. Great, well, welcome. And for those of you not working in youth services, you can go ahead and type in chat what you do if you're a manager, administrator, front desk person who does everything. I see library director. All right, and I see that Jill's having some audio issues, so we will have Joe work with you. One trick that we discovered is that for our computers, plugging in a thumb drive or other USB drive sometimes will fix audio because there's some weirdness that happens that's not really able to be explained. Well, yesterday I checked my email. I was checking on something and saw, oh, we have a question. Let's see. Or Sandy, go ahead. Okay. No question. Okay. So yesterday I was checking my email and saw that our presenter for today had bronchitis and was ill. And since I have been a services librarian in the beginning of my career and children and teen, and since I worked at Snow Isle Libraries up in northwestern Washington as the Assistant Children's Services Manager and Collection Development, I have a lot of experience with youth services and teen services, so I thought, well, I can do this. So I spent some time putting together a presentation, and I have to thank, there was a presentation at ALA from the Ruth Enloe Library of Garrett County, Maryland. So I looked at their presentation for inspiration. And also we have Pierce County Library System has some great resources online. So I'll be talking about those later. So those were some of the resources that I found in my search for current information. And welcome to Anna. So who here has done a teen book club, or any book club for that matter? You can raise your hand. Okay, great. So several of you have actually done. It looks like 4 people. Thank you for 5 of us. So let's see. Go ahead and lower hands. Joe, would you mind lowering the hands? And so when you're getting started, one thing to think about is letting them know what's happening. And in this day and age, there's so many more ways to do that than back before. You can mail out letters to your core group if you have addresses, or do a mass mailing. You can email if you have email lists. Put information on your website, posters up in the library. Those things are kind of traditional. Or using bookmarks. And you can kind of hide those around your teen section to get their attention. And also, just in this day and age, social media. Use your Twitter account and Facebook account and other social media accounts that teens are looking at. And most of all, talk to them, find out if they're interested, find out what they're interested in. I truly believe assessment and knowing your community is critical. When I was in Ellensburg, which is a rural, medium-sized library in central Washington, I had a homeschooling mother come to me and say, we need a mother-daughter book club. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. We should do that. And so I scheduled a meeting and invited everyone in the community. And so that night, I had two people show up, a student from the college who was studying teen literature and teen services and wanted to find out what we were planning, and then the person who had made the recommendation. So that was kind of a discouraging thing, but what we ended up doing is morphing into some really targeted teen programs as a result of that we were able to work through and had great success with. So at that particular moment in time in that particular community, a mother-daughter book club was not what they were looking for, but our teen programming really took off and did great, and part of that started as that seed of an idea. So knowing what they want, what are they interested in, and inviting them to contribute to that. So if you have a teen advisory team, ask their input. If you have connections with the schools, or if you're in a school, if you have connections to the public library, talk to your colleagues, find out what the kids are reading and what might capture their attention. So how do you assure or hope that you're going to be successful? There are some tips. If you have the same time each month to meet, you're more likely to build up a group. If it changes every month, you're going to lose kids and not be able to have that consistency. So choosing a consistent time every month that works for the kids. So knowing in your community when the sports practices are and other school activity, after school activities is important for knowing what day might work best. And it depends on if you're giving them the book or if you're having them check the book out, but making sure they have access to a book club book at the end of the meeting so they can read it for the next one. So if you have funding from a friends group or a sponsor, if they get a copy to keep, then that's an incentive to keep them coming back. And then providing pizza or other food. This one is actually quite controversial, as I know not all libraries offer food, so there's certainly no requirement, but if you are in a community where food is part of your culture and the kids come for it, I know it was a draw back when I was doing programming in Ellensburg, so offering some snacks is helpful. Also, doing the book club with activities or crafts is helpful to get that program, make it three-dimensional and memorable. And please feel free to raise your hand or type in chat if you have any questions as we go through. So keeping that success going, and make sure it's about the kids. Because deciding, well, I'm really liking to read, you know, these kind of books, so these are the books we're going to read, is not necessarily going to keep the kids coming back. Find out what they like, what they want to read, and actually listen to them and follow through on their suggestions. So when they say they want to read a manga book that you've never read, give it a chance, you know, look it over, consider it, add it into the mix. Also, make sure that each child has a voice. each team gets to contribute. And that means that they're not all going to be happy all the time, but it is important to make sure that they have the opportunity to discover new books and learn from each other. So for running the meetings, a couple different approaches is setting the house rules for the meeting, and I think once again here it's important to ask the kids what those rules should be. They're going to have some great ideas, and listening to them and incorporating their rules into the meeting guidelines will be helpful. So starting the meetings off with a brief reminder. Make sure that they know that there's no pressure, but that they get the chance to communicate and share about the books. Be prepared to talk about the author and the other books that the author has written, and maybe some stories about the author that you can find online or from some resource. You might want to start out by going around the room and have each team share what they liked, what they didn't like, and if they'd recommend the book to a friend. And then have an outline for discussion, and also let the kids lead that discussion. You'll get to know as time goes on the teams and be able to let them really take the lead. You might even want to involve them in taking turns and coming up with some of the questions. And add film clips, projects, activities, things that come out of the book that are extensions of the books. And of course, we all have lots and lots of money to spend on this, or not. So you can start small. You don't have to have big, huge events. You can use the resources you have. I think the challenge here, of course, is coming up with enough copies of the books. But you may only have 4 or 5 kids in the beginning. So that might limit the books in the beginning, but looking for sponsorship, looking to get the community involved. So trying to find out what businesses in the community would be a good match so that you can partner with them and get them to help sponsor. And making sure you have those school public librarian partnerships in place. So keep up the momentum. Seek their input, their involvement. Don't figure that just because they thought one way in the beginning, that's going to stay the same. So check it back in with the kids. Do periodic assessments. Make sure the atmosphere is comfortable and supportive, that their basic needs are met there, and that they want to be there. And once again, let them make some of those decisions within reason. Keep in contact with them, so don't just wait from one meeting to the next, but maybe do some emailing, texting, chatting, in between to check in. Take advantage of that social media available. Pick the nights, as I mentioned earlier, that they're actually available, and have them help plan the events. And sometimes you might want to have a celebration, like at the end of a quarter, of doing the book club and celebrate their success, and let them have a hand in that. Give small rewards, even if it's just a kudos on Twitter for bringing new members. Recognize the kids for their accomplishments. So then coming back to making sure that your program gets the marketing and publicity it needs. There's still the old-fashioned way of flyers. Always remember to work with your school library, and vice versa. If you're in a school, work with your public librarian. Use your local media, and use your social media. And there seems to always be a new social media popping up. Find out what they're using and go there. So one thing that I found that I thought was really fantastic and would have made my job a lot easier is that Pierce County Library actually has team book club kits. Now I know that not everyone lives in Pierce County. However, they actually have all the questions online for people to use. So I'm going to try a web tour here. Get this set. Okay, can you see Pierce County's library website? And go ahead and put a green check if you can see this website, please. Good, some of you can. And a red mark if you cannot see it, so we can see what we can do to help. Great, it looks like most of you have access. Okay, good. So the Pierce County Library System has a lot of book kits. And these book kits do have the books, and they also have questions. But you could actually click on a title, and it will bring up a list of questions. So you might want to note this website. I'll go ahead and put it in chat as well so that you can save it and bookmark it. Now we're going to go ahead and end the web tour. I can figure out how to do that. Let's see. There we go. We're back. Okay. So I pulled out just an example. Is they have the giver in the first 3 questions, but they have like 12 plus questions per book. So you don't even have to come up with the questions yourself. You can find them out there on the internet, which I think is pretty fantastic. Because I know for me that's always the hard part is finding the questions. So borrow. So there are some other good websites out there with suggestions for what books you might want to read. And once again, I think really it's knowing what the kids want to read and asking them and getting them to tell you what they want to read. And maybe they can vote on the books they're going to read. And we'll publish this PowerPoint on our First Tuesdays website as well. And so I'm Jennifer Fenton from the Washington State Library. I know this was a short report, but at this time I'm happy to answer questions. And if any of you have success stories about your teen book clubs, we'd love to hear about them. So please go ahead and raise your hand if you have a story to share.
I'll just say welcome to Carletta who joined. And we're glad she's able to be here. If again, if you wanted to talk, the talk button is right underneath on the very top left-hand side. There's an audio-video box that says who's talking. So if you wanted to share something, or if you had a question, if you wanted to type a question for Jennifer, don't hesitate to do that. So it looks like Matt has a question. Matt, go ahead.
Matt's question is, do you have any tips for starting a partnership with a school library? Thank you. That's a good question. I think that in my case, when I used to work with the schools, it was a matter of contacting the school librarians, but also working with the principals. So I would send out a letter in saying who I was, and an email or a letter, and CCing the principal and saying, you know, I'm interested in sharing this information, and can we set up a time to chat? Most schools were most willing to work. Now I know that school librarians these days are stretched really, really thin, and that could be the challenge. So I think it's really important that school media specialist librarian has their administration backing them up. What's always challenging is when a school librarian works in multiple locations, because then they're spread even more thin. Now we have at least one school librarian here, so I would like to invite, if you're a school librarian and you can write in chat how we might best approach you, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, well, I'll also read Shelley's question. Shelley says, do you ever have the kids read books they like and then present them to the club? I would think that it would give different book ideas to the kids.
Thank you, Shelley. I think that that would be really fun. I haven't personally done that, but I could see that that would be a fun approach, and I definitely think that you can take different approaches and be creative. And having, yeah, I think actually I remember too that one technique might be like the last meeting of the quarter or the year, depending if you go with the school year or if you go quarterly, would be that that would be, you know, share your favorite book day. So you might do specific books, and then at the end let each teen share their particular favorite. And that's always fun, I know, because then they also take like a reading list home with them of, oh, I heard about this book and I want to read it. So there is a great webinar we have archived on our First Tuesdays website on teen book talking. And so I think that if you're doing teen book clubs, another part of that that you could integrate too might be some teen book talking where you do some, where they do some, and kind of broaden that scope, and that could be a fun experiment. So let's see. So I'm sorry, Cindy, that you are having difficulty with sound. Hey, it fixed it. Okay, so other questions? Oh, go ahead, Carolyn.
I was just going to say, can you share, giving your experience, what was the most successful thing you ever did? What was the thing you thought, yeah, I'm going to do this again? What do you think is the best, you know, one of your best programs, if you can think about that, when you were doing a book club?
Well, actually, when I was working in Ellensburg, what worked for our community was readers theater and plays were actually more successful than traditional book clubs. And so we had taken the American Girls series, and this was, you know, almost 20 years ago, and we did plays, and we had craft days around the themes. So it was an untraditional book club, but they were highly successful, where we would have to do multiple sessions because we had so many kids wanting to participate. So that was kind of, for that community, tying it into a series that was really, really popular, and it was more preteen rather than teen, but it really was highly successful, and the teens actually got into it and helped because they wanted to help direct the plays, they wanted to participate, they wanted to help out. So for that particular community at that particular time, that was what worked. And I know different libraries have found different paths to success. I think that one thing that now, and I've been out of teen services for a while, is with YouTube and with smartphones and iPads, kids can now make videos. So you could take a really multimedia approach to book clubs and have them do 3-minute videos that were, you know, about the books you're reading, things like that, to make it skill enhancing and interactive and more fun.
Okay, Lee says, did you read plays or books when you, regarding your last program where you did the acting?
We did both. We had readers theater where it was scripted from books, so it was, you take the book and we read the books in a creative way, but we also did, American Girls has plays that they wrote based on the book, so the kids would read the books and then the plays were scripted out from the company, but not the same as the book. So we had a combination.
I'm going to take the opportunity here to promote a contest that the summer reading program has been doing for the last, I believe, 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer. But they have been running a teen video contest that relates to promoting the summer reading program, and that might be an activity that a book club would want to take on. They get a prize, they get recognized, and so that would be just something that perhaps in the book club, that would be something fun to do. So I saw that, I believe Shelley looks like she's typing from Millersburg, so let's see, I haven't seen hers come up, but she has a question. And I would also like if anybody else had something that you really thought worked well, we'd sure love to hear about it. This is the time. Oh, how about the other thing that you could do is, could you type in a book, if you have done a book club, could you type in the name of a successful book or one that you'd like to try? So why don't we try that? Is there a book that you would like to suggest that would be a good idea? You know, what would be? So we'll see again. I see Shelley typing. I see Karen typing. That's good. We appreciate your suggestions. So any good book titles that you'd like to consider? So beyond go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say, for some of these resources that I have here as well, they're good for discussing what the kids are reading and sharing notes. Most of you have probably heard of Goodreads, and so that is kind of a social networking / book site. And so they that's a good resource as well. Let's see what Shelley said. We did one where they read Macbeth, and then the kids each took a part in the play and held a trial that was presented to the public, and the public ruled on the guilt or innocence. I love that idea, Shelley. Great.
Fun.
And Karen says The Supernaturalist was a good book. It was quick to capture their attention and moves pretty fast. Yeah, I think I've seen that one listed. And then Angie said something that we've had some success is Read the Movie, where we do a one-off book club with a current movie tie-in like The Hunger Games, and they're looking at The Hobbit. I think that's really great. We did, I remember at Snow Isle, like the Harry Potter events were so popular, and you know, the kids were reading the books anyways, but being able to bring them together to really experience the books was really great. It was fantastic. So tying it into the movies out there, and there's a lot of movies based on books these days. Other ideas, some titles that, going back to like Pierce County, they have, you know, everything from Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, which I think would work in some communities and not so well in others, to classics like The Giver and Holes, and then other books like Inkheart and classics like A Wrinkle in Time. They even have Owly, which is, you know, a non-traditional format, and so they have quite a few different choices, which is nice because there's a broad range for finding the ones that fit in with your community. I noticed when I was looking that like the Hunger Games phenomenon has really had a niche out there for book clubs for kids discussing books along that line, and there's a lot of really good ones out right now.
I'd like to ask a question in terms of, I do think there's sort of a sweet spot with preteens versus the older teens. Do you find that you do a different type of thing for like a junior high group versus a high school group, and can the two ages be combined, or do you need to keep them separate?
I think it depends a lot on who the kids are, the community. In Ellensburg, the high school kids were not interested in necessarily coming to programs with the middle school kids. However, they were more than happy to lend a hand as helpers. So sometimes it just depends. Yeah, maybe the high school kids could help facilitate discussions, but I think that the reading interests are very different. So if you're doing a book club around specific books, I would think that you would have a more narrow age group, but that's my personal opinion. I know some people have done like, you know, ages 12 and up or 11 and up, and that might work for some books, but what a middle school kid is reading is not necessarily the same as what a high school kid is interested in reading. Especially, I would think, you know, Diary of a Part-Time Indian, I would never want to have that as a discussion for, you know, preteens. I don't think that would be appropriate. So it depends on what type of books you're doing.
Cindy has a comment. She says our younger mother-daughter book club is very popular, but the girls age out, and there's interest in a teen mother-daughter book club. Yeah, I think sometimes the I know of a mother-daughter book club, not necessarily where the girls just they were all kind of, they kept going. They didn't drop out. They formed tight friendship bonds, and they just kept going and are still doing it now when the girls are in college and the moms are, well, a little older than they were. So if you can do that, you know, maybe start a separate group, just keep going with those girls, that might. Any other ideas? for things, titles, movies. How about activities? What activities, specific activities? Jennifer mentioned crafts. She mentioned plays, you know, having food. Any other activities that that have been specific that you've done in the forum of a teen book club that have been very popular, that aren't the normal discussion, but something you did that might not have occurred to some of the rest of us?
I've heard of like knitting book clubs, and that's more maybe for the girls, and that's another question in your community when you're looking at the book clubs, is trying to get both girls and boys involved and finding books that appeal to both. That can be a challenge. So figuring out who's interested in attending, and do you need multiple book clubs? You know, how do you balance that out? How do you get the boys to read books that they might not otherwise read, and vice versa? How do you get the girls to read books that they might not otherwise read? So that's definitely a fine balancing act as well.
I see. We do have some guys here. If they would like to contribute some titles, that would be wonderful, that they think might be work. Although I frequently, I was going to say, guys won't always read titles that are more, what should I say, almost chick lit. They won't be interested in that, but girls will read both. Although that's kind of I won't say, that's almost dated, because I think now people are reading more widely. It isn't as gender-based as it used to be. My experience has been that firm line is dissolving, but it's still a little bit there. Any comments there? I will say that our featured speaker, it seems a shame not to have his ideas. He is from North Carolina, has done a great deal of work out there, and so I think what we're going to have him do is we will have Matt record his presentation when he can finally speak, and we will put that up on the web. We will have this presentation archived, and then we will add Matt's as well. So if you want to come back and access what Matt had to say, which will probably be slightly different than what Jennifer had to say, we will put that up on the web. And so again, for those folks, any other questions? So we are just, Jennifer, do you have any other wrap-up questions?
No, anything people want to share is great. And like I said, I didn't find out till yesterday, and it was the holiday, so I did put together a presentation, and I'm glad I did, because I would have been disappointed to have had to cancel this session, especially with this great turnout. But you know, I have been doing training for librarians for a while now, so I have been one step removed, but I also have tried to keep current with what's happening in the libraries. So I am always open to hearing new ideas, and so please do speak up, because your input is definitely valuable.
Well, we want to say thanks to Jennifer for being willing to take her time out of her Labor Day holiday to do this. So I am saying thank you. Any last comments? If not, do I see anybody typing? Well, thanks everyone, and if you haven't already told us where your library is and where that is located, what library you're associated, we'd appreciate you doing that before you do that. So any last comments or questions? Cindy is typing. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, well, Jennifer, shall we say thank you, and once again talk about, we do this on a monthly basis. We're here the first Tuesday of the month, and next month is going to be, the topic for the day will be circulating and training on ebook reader devices.
Thank you.
So,
yes, thank you all for coming, and have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you for future webinars. And we will archive this, and it'll be posted on our First Tuesdays website.
And it will have Matt's as well. Thank you.